Hi everybody, it's Zach and I like movies, and today I'm back again for another entry in the Letterboxd Criterion Challenge for 2024. This week is prompt number 40. This is any one of Guillermo del Toro's Twitter film recommendations. And I decided on The Adventures of Baron Munchausen from director Terry Gilliam. Now, aside from his directing work, Gilliam is best known as the surrealist animator for the legendary comedy group Monty Python. Very, very distinct, very choppy, very, kind of creepy, but also like just off-putting enough, and just has its own rhythm that it's so unique and just so weird and so funny at the same time. And granted, he didn't perform much in front of the camera that often, though I think that only makes his role of Patsy from Holy Grail that much more special. But in the early 80s, he started to branch away from Python to direct his own solo work, and his first three films would be what he would call his trilogy of imagination. Now, and these would be his 1981 debut Time Bandits, his 1985 magnum opus Brazil, and this movie, 1988's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I don't have the Criterion disc physically. And each of these movies, in their own way, are all about the various ways that people's fantasies are battling against the weird and often tyrannical orders of reality and logic, be it like orders of government or orders of just like even orders of politeness. They battle and intersect and sort of cross over, often tragically, many times hilariously, but most of the time, kind of both. And Baron Munchausen, this film, and the character himself really embody that spirit of fantasy and that desire to just like let the story carry itself to the point that it just becomes its own. And this movie is a real stunner. Like, if you have not seen this movie, you are in for a treat, folks. This is stuffed bursting with creativity, a spirit of old-fashioned adventure, and it's told with this awe-inspiring splendor. Like this is one of those movies where you will watch and just think to yourself, they do not make them like they used to anymore. It's one of those kind of 80s movies. And I wish this was the kind of 80s movies people were like trying to replicate instead of just, I don't know, just doing like Ghostbusters again. But anyway, on the movie itself. Now, it's 1800 something. It kind of doesn't matter. It's the Age of Reason, and England is at war with the Turks. And in some unnamed town by the seaside, there's a theater company that is performing in a blown-out theater box of a performance of The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, who was actually a literary character that was somewhat loosely inspired by an actual German nobleman with a long and kind of funny name. And this is overseen by the mayor of the town, the ordinary Horatio Jackson, who's played by Jonathan Pryce, and a nice somewhat villainous turn, who now, after in Brazil being Sam Lowry trying to escape the tight-fisted government, is now being the tight-fisted government type. I think that's fun. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the performance, a starchy old man in a red worn coat, wielding a sword, and a wire-haired lurcher dog shows up, storms the stage, calling them all a bunch of liars. Like, that's not how it happened. And this is the real Hieronymus Karl Friedrich Baron von Munchausen. And he is played by the legendary stage actor John Neville. And this is probably still his most famous on-screen role, although no shade to the well-manicured man from the X-Files. Now, the Baron is a teller of his tall tales and many fantastical adventures, and as he's rambling out and sort of kind of now wielding the actors hostage because he's a crazy old man brandishing a sword, some of the actors of the troupe come out and help act out the Baron's story, which transitions seamlessly into a flashback where we see Munchausen in his prime, who's like the capital A, the capital B, capital A British adventurer. You know, he's very like swashbuckling Errol Flynn type. You know, always got a twinkle in his smile and a sparkle in his eye, that kind of thing. Throwing a wink at the lovely ladies. And in his story, he makes a life or death bet with the Turkish Sultan. And he only survives this and manages to steal the Sultan's entire treasury through luck and his merry band of remarkable associates. And these associates are Berthold, played by Eric Idle, the fastest man in the world. They get quite literally Looney Tunes with the way he runs, you know, like just running in place real quick, and the ground is tearing up beneath him, and he flies off in a trail of smoke. There's Adolphus, played by Charles McKeown. McKeown. It was a superhuman level marksman. You know, if you think you're good at sniper and TF2, this guy's better. There is Gustavus, played by Jack Purvis. He was a man with incredible hearing and also has the ability to like quite literally huff and puff and blow guys away. The team heavy Albrecht, played by Winston Dennis, who was just unmatchable strength. Like he literally carries the entire treasury on his back. And then there's the Baron's noble white steed, Bucephalus. And so now the old Baron, the old Baron Munchausen, sets off to recollect his friends and save the town that is being just invaded and like blown apart by the Turks outside, like right outside of their gates. And he's gonna recollect his he's gonna get all his old friends back. They're gonna save the town together. And he flies off in a hot air balloon made of women's pantaloons, like all great British explorers. But he has a stowaway, and that's little Sally Salt. She was the daughter of the lead of the theater troupe who was playing Munchausen, and she is played by 9-year-old Sarah Polley. And she's wonderful here. She's a spunky little firecracker who was kind of traumatized during filming because there are a lot of explosions going off right next to her. Like, you might watch some scenes and think to yourself, wow, that's not safe. But hey, it was the 80s. Everybody was getting away with child endangerment. Just look at John Landis. And from then on, it's just one fantastical setting and fantastical thing to the expedition to the next. They go to the Munchausen and Sally, they go to the moon and they meet the giant king and queen of the moon with their detachable heads. And the king is played by the late, the great, the hilariously uncredited Robin Williams. And Robin is just Williamsing it up. He's just spitting a million gags a minute. And just like he's fighting off his body, who's like a real horn dog. Meanwhile, the queen's head is just down bad for Munchausen. And then they get thrown out. And there they find Berthold, Eric Idle, and Berthold. And you will see for the rest of his troupe, they're actually now played by the same actors, but like in old makeup. And every so often, the Baron will go from his very old man look back into his more prime look, where he's like still very dashing with brown hair instead of like somewhat lingering dashing and gray haired. and so they manage to escape. They get thrown down in a volcano and meet the Roman god Vulcan, played by Oliver Reed, and then Baron kind of cucks him and has a romantic waltz with his wife, the goddess Venus, played by Thurman. Then it's literally kind of that, they're just kind of fantasy hopping. Like they get the whole gang gets eaten by this big freaky anglerfish kraken thing. And as I'm describing it, it does sound like a chaotic movie, and that is by design. Eric Idle once described Terry's process as similar to how he animates. You know, he creates chaos for everyone in the whole set, where he as a director is able, it puts it together and makes sense of things. And I don't think this movie makes a whole lot of sense sometimes. Like, I don't even know where to start with unpacking the politics of this like European Ottoman war that's happening in the background. And the movie isn't, frankly, either. And I don't know if that's like the biggest and I don't think that's like the primary concern. It is like more focused on like the the fantasy of it and the adventure and the whole visual palette of it. Like that's a big thing for Gilliam. And this movie is very fun. It's very funny sometimes. Like one of the hardest laughs I got out of this movie was a gag where Bertold is trying to stop a sniper shooting at Baron, and then he like tries to catch the bullet. It was so funny, like hard belly laugh. And as fun and as cartoony as this movie gets, I do think it did come at the cost of some of the stakes. I never really felt any immediate danger either of Baron and Sally's adventure, or even the looming stakes of the war at the town gates. Like they would often cut to like Sally berating the Baron, but the town is in danger. Oh, I'm sure they're fine. And then they're about to have the doors busted down. And again, it's like the fantasy and the fun. It's all fun, but I never really feel like there's any like threat really. Again, it's very cartoony. It did remind me a lot more of like Time Bandits, where it kind of gave me the impression that this is kind of a kids' film, or at least would be friendly to kids, I guess, in a way. But honestly, the most threatening thing that our heroes face is the angel of death that is looming over them all and often chases them in this like this great practical effect of this like, it's death. It's death. This winged this like winged skeleton with a scythe and a hood. And that's something that is a recurring thing in a lot of Gilliam's other works. This malevolent manifestation of our hero's worst fears. It could be, this is like the giant silver shogun in Brazil, or the fire-spitting knight from the Fisher King. And again, that's the like biggest threat. And there's not a whole lot that makes sense about it. But that is the fun and the point of it all. Terry Gilliam, and with all these impressive sets and this imaginative, tactile, practical effects, is asking us and allowing us to get swept up in the fantasy, and just get swept up in the fantasy and just kind of poo-poo logic, to feel young and heart in the imagination, to let these grand tales overwhelm and inspire us, so that those who have the skill for those who have the talent for it live happily ever after. And I think there is a very funness to that. I think there's a real missing kind of twinkle of madness that I think a lot of is something that people do remiss about when they look back on movies made in the 80s. So there was this great, incredible boon of just overwhelming creativity and fun that just kind of set a lot of precedents. And it's a shame that the Adventures of Baron Munchausen really bombed. The budget, there's some arguments about where the budget started, whether it was 21 million or 25 million, but it ballooned into almost 50 million, and it didn't even make 10 at the box office. But Gilliam's works have never really have great returns, but that's not really the point. The point, the value of art is never really how valuable it is. It's monetarily. It's about just the creativity and its enjoy and how it's told and how it's done, and man, this is just so much of what made Gilliam so beloved, and he loved. And again, I don't think this is his strongest work. I do prefer Time Bandits and especially Brazil to Munchausen. But man, this is really it's so much fun. I honestly would just recommend it for the whole fun of it, and it is valued for the fun of it. And right at the end, it really does give us this. It kind of gives us something of the opposite lesson of Brazil, where in that movie we use the story and the fantasy to sort of escape the harshness of our reality. But here, the story and the fantasy is inspirational. It inspires the town and the theater troupe and everyone to. It's not like they tell you to like the story of Baron Munchausen tells you to rebel, but it is a spark. It gives you that little push that could tell you that you can make things better, that the world out there isn't what you feared it would be, isn't what the oppressive society or oppressive governments tell you it is, that it is brighter, it is safer, and you can go out and make adventures and make the world make the world your own adventure, and should you have the talent for it, live happily ever after. And yeah, I think it's great. I don't know, as far as reductive rating goes, I think it's a very strong 7 to a light 8. And yeah, I definitely got to get this on Criterion. This is fantastic. It is available on Criterion DVD, Blu-ray and DVD. I think it's a 4K now too. But and yes, would highly recommend both Time Bandits and Brazil, especially Brazil. This is still like one of my favorite movies ever. And much of Gilliam's other masterpieces. You know, there's 12 Monkeys, which is great. I think I have that somewhere. I did. I still need to see his Don Quixote movie that he finally finished. I'm very proud of that. I don't care if it's bad or anything. I'm just happy that he finished it. So, yeah, I think that's it. I am said about as much I wrote down. And I really enjoyed this movie. I hope you watch it too. So comment, like, subscribe, share the movie. What is your? Do you have a favorite Terry Gilliam movie? Do you have a favorite Terry Gilliam, I don't know, animated cutaway from Python? I don't know. I'm not really sure how to end this one, but I'll be got a lot of movies to watch, and I'll be seeing. Oh, I actually like TV to watch too. I heard Shogun's really good. I gotta watch that. So yeah, I'll be watching movies. I'll be watching Shogun, and I'll be seeing you.